Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm with a 2022 Mercedes EQB. This is an all-electric SUV. It is the second EQ in the Mercedes lineup. The EQ models are all electric vehicles. This was preceded by the EQS sedan. So this is built on a very similar, almost exactly the same platform. It is a small SUV, compact in size, 2 rows, and really well done. So let's check it out.
This review is brought to you by Charcoal Toothpaste.
So there are two EQB models. There's the 300 and the 350. This one in particular is a 350. The difference between the two is horsepower. The 300 has 225. The 350 here has 288. All EQB SUVs are all-wheel drive by default. There's a motor on each of the axles, and all of them have the same 70.5 kilowatt-hour battery. So in this particular one, that means it has a range of around 221 miles. So you have, by the EPA, 221 miles of range with this. Yours is going to vary. Mine has been closer to about 200, but we're at altitude. We drive fairly fast here. Freeway speed limit is 75 and 80 miles an hour, so you have to take that into account. It's true of all electric vehicles. So you can get that full charge, or you can charge it in many different ways. This is DC fast charge capable, which means you can charge it to about 80% in about 30 minutes, 31 minutes. If you plug it into a wall outlet like I do, I have a 240 50 amp dedicated wall outlet in my garage for charging vehicles, which means it's not shared with anything else. And I can charge this to full if it's mostly empty. The furthest down I had it was about 30%, but from 30% to full was about 8 hours. So if it was totally empty, I would say you'd be about 11 or 12 hours to charge from pretty close to empty all the way up to full. So that's pretty good. Now around town, this is a great little drive, and on the highway, it gets up to highway speed like that, like every electric vehicle should, and drives beautifully, nice and balanced, and nicely just kind of gliding. So let's have a look at the design here. You'll see a lot of Mercedes design language going on. They're pulling off of their popular larger SUV models when they design this. So let's check that out. So coming from the side here, the first thing you're going to notice is the general Mercedes SUV shape. Every Mercedes SUV has this basic shape. They're all, honestly, they're all very, very just good looking. They take a very basic square and they make it look pretty damn good. Biggest highlight right here that you're gonna see is those wheels. Those are for the electric models only, and they are awesome. Those are beautiful looking wheels. You see the little EQB badge, and then as I walk in, you'll see some perspective on what the size for this is. So you have some blue highlights under here in the under the glasswork on these headlights. You have the EQB here, and then you have the blue highlights on the wheel down there. All of that highlights the fact that it's electric. But as far as styling goes, again, very Mercedes SUV. So you see this hump here, which accentuates the front fender here. Same exact thing is happening back there, so that you end up with this crease running through, creates another hump and a bigger one after that to make that rear. And then you'll see the belt line runs along. This chrome work is creating the belt line, but it's actually pretty wide. It's about 4 fingers wide, because this line here, which starts right up here above the headlight, fades in right to about here and runs all the way along and then fades out on that rear fender just before the tail lamp. That is a belt line running all the way across, about 4 fingers wide like this. That is pretty cool. And then back here, the glasswork, so the greenhouse kind of pops up. That creates that little upward hump, which visually makes forward movement. I've talked about that many, many times with vehicles. And then for here, you just have, for the rest of the door, the bodywork, you just have these very simple bone lines that create a light curve right here. Come down, come back out a little bit. It's that reverse S, it's pretty common. Then you have this deeper crease down here, which makes for a larger rocker panel down below. So very good look. I really like the looks of this. Let's go have a look see at the working end, then we'll talk about the interior. So here we have the back of the EQB, and you can see it's the 350 model put here, and then you can see over here it's 4MATIC, all-wheel drive. That's Mercedes for all-wheel drive. The hatch is very well done, and again, a very Mercedes SUV. They didn't make a whole lot of changes to kind of swap this around. Cool thing here that I really like, this pops out to give you that rear view camera, which is on top, and then it is also the handle for opening and closing. Good sized cargo space here. We're a family of 5. We got a full Sam's Club run in here, so a full box club run. That's pretty awesome. Good size back here. You have this shade as an option. It pops right out if you don't want it. Under here, you have your inflation kit, charging cord, and toe pin down under here. You could get a couple of things under here if you really needed to, if you wanted to like hide your laptop or something, but there's not a ton of space. There are, however, some useful little things in here. So there's these little nets on these milk openings, but you can't get a milk jug in there very easily. That's difficult. But you can get a milk jug on these straps right here. How cool is that? There's one on each side, and they're just these kind of bungee feeling things. You can shove something in there if you don't want it to roll around. And then you have D-hooks up on those corners up there, and back here inside these things that these are actually attached to are some D-hooks. So you can secure cargo if you need to. This is a 3-piece rear seat, so it's 40-40-20. So you can drop down just the middle if you need skis or something, and then you can drop down one side, the other side, or all of it. Really nicely done and really smart. Those actually drop pretty flat. The only downer I have is you can't control them from here. You have to go around to the door and do it, which is kind of a downer, but very well done. Nice cargo area. I don't expect this kind of thinking in a luxury vehicle. Let's go look at the interior. So right off the bat, I want to point out that these rear doors open to about 80 degrees. That gives you lots of entry and exit, lots of space for that. Also, this seat is set for me at 6'3". I still have tons of knee room. I can put my feet almost underneath it a little bit to kind of flatten my legs out. So even though the back seats are like they usually are in vehicles where they're really made for short people without any kind of thigh support, these are really good. Now the flat seat means that the seat folding down stays flat. When you have better cushion seats back here, you almost never have a flat folding for cargo. So it's kind of a trade-off. But plenty of headroom. I've got maybe, I'm going to call that 1.5 inches of headroom up there, and that's with the second sunroof. There's 2 different sunroofs in this car, and just a wonderful little setup. It feels really good. You have vents back here. You have netting here. You can throw some things in. You got drink holders. You got this fold down over here for more drink holders. It's just a nicely done back cabin. For especially considering the price point, which we'll talk about later. Let's go look at the front. So that front door does open to really close to 90 degrees. We'll call it 85. Gives you plenty of entry and easy to get in and out of this vehicle. That's probably one of its best points, is how easy it is to use, especially getting in and out and just the daily stuff you do with it. All the seat adjustments, like all Mercedes, are on the door, not on the side of the seat, except for the lumbar down here. This has heated seats, but does not have cooled seats. I believe that's an option, but doesn't have it here. The interior layout is really well done. You have the usual, the new Mercedes look of having one giant screen, but it's actually 2 screens that are about the same size. I think they're 12.5 inches. So you have the driver information display. The gauge cluster is all digital, and it's on this side. And then over here you have all of your infotainment. Just a well done. Climate controls are easy, and there's hard buttons for almost all of it, so you don't have to fiddle around with a screen trying to figure it out. Big bonus. Lots of studies have shown that people much prefer to have buttons for just about everything they can because they're just more intuitive and safer to use because you get used to reaching for a button instead of fiddling around with the screen instead of looking at the road. Now, most of your stereo controls you're going to be doing from the steering wheel on the right hand side here. You have volume right in the middle. It's just a big dial up and down. Easy to understand. You don't have to look away from the road to use it. It's right there. You have your voice control, your telephone, and your little pad for like skipping tracks, changing stations, that sort of thing is all right there. So pretty good, pretty well done. Some things annoy me about it, but for the most part, it's pretty well done, and I like it. The little touchpad in particular, it takes a little while to get used to. Up here, where you should have your washer wipers, is actually your shifter. That's how you go to reverse drive, etc. That's a Mercedes thing. Washer and wipers over here, which is also the signal turn stock. You signal turns because that's the order you use them in, right? So your washer wiper for the rear is the twisty here. You use this right here. There's some buttons to run the squirters, and you go back and forth. Actually, this is the front twisting it. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong. The rear one is the buttons that are on here, and then you squirt by pushing this button. So takes a minute to get used to doing it with your left hand, but that's a Mercedes thing. And again, if you own this car, that's something that you'll learn pretty quickly in that first week of driving. So nicely done. I really like Mercedes interiors, and I very much like their infotainment because you can just talk to it. You don't have to know a bunch of stuff or anything. You can just say, "Hey, Mercedes," and start telling it what you want, and it does it. Really, really cool there. Mercedes is still a leader in that arena. So nicely done interior. Let's have a look-see at the Monroney for this, and then we will talk about, well, we'll just wrap this up, and I'll tell you my overall impressions, which you probably guessed by now are pretty good. Okay, quick look at the Monroney. So for the EQB 350 that we're sitting in here, we're looking at $60,100 delivered for this vehicle, $58,000 before delivery and add-ons, which it only has one thing, and that is the denim blue metallic paint, which you get a couple of credits, but there's a couple of credits on here because the standard equipment that is supposed to be here is not. And I don't, looking at here, it doesn't tell you what that is, but I can tell you what it is. It's the seat massaging, it's the seat cooling, and a couple other things that are supposed to be included but aren't because we're in a chip shortage. You can see over on the right what the EPA gives this: 96 mpge, 35 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. My highway testing got a little better than that. I was at more like 33.8. So, little caveat right there, but I was not able to see 227 miles by the dial. I didn't run it to totally empty and see what happens. But by the machines or the car's guesswork, I was closer to 200 than 227. But again, highway mix. How much highway you drive really makes a difference, and I was using this all week to drive my daughter to class, which is freeway time for about 4 miles, and that's a lot of 75 plus mile an hour driving. So take that with a little grain of salt. So there you go, that's it. This is the 2022 Mercedes EQB. Small SUV, very well done. There is no front trunk. It's all electronics and stuff under here. I wanted to check just to make sure because some of them do and some of them don't. And I have made the mistake of not checking thoroughly before and been called on it. So this time I checked thoroughly. That's all there is. I'll show you a photo if you want to see it. But really well done. I really like the feel of this. Like most electrics, it's nicely balanced. There are a couple of things to note. It is heavy. So if you're used to small vehicles like this being pretty lightweight and zippy, this is zippy, but it is not lightweight. And you'll find that when you're maneuvering. So when you corner at speed and things like that, it is heavier in feel. But all that weight is down low because the batteries are across the bottom. It's all down low. So you don't feel like you're going to skid or anything, but that weight will come into play when you're driving in bad weather. So be sure to note that and understand the vehicle before you start trying to do a bunch of wanky snow maneuvers or something. Anyway, yeah, that's it. We got 2022 Mercedes EQB. I really like this vehicle. I think it's a good size, very well done, hits the mark just exactly right, and it's affordable enough as a luxury SUV that you're not paying a big price to go electric. So very well done overall. Nice vehicle. That's it. That's what I got. This is Aaron. Talk to you again soon.
Subscribe.